Hi, I'm Mark Skierman and welcome to Atlantic Grown Organics. We are a third generation farm here. We started into the greenhouse business in 2001. We converted to organic in 2005 and currently we have 4 acres here under plastic. And we grow a variety of crops. These are our grape tomatoes that we grow. That's our biggest crop. So these would be the little tomatoes that you would see packed in a pint maybe. At the stores or at the farmers markets. This crop in this greenhouse was planted in about middle of February and it'll go right through till Christmas. Generally in this greenhouse we don't have lights, so we grow a sort of a traditional season crop from early spring until Christmas time. In the other greenhouse we grow grape tomatoes through the winter under lights, but not here. So this crop, because it is such a long crop, it lasts right through the year, almost 365 days between seeding and when we take the crop out. The stems get very long. I don't know if you can see that in the camera, but those stems would grow back about 40 or 50 feet by the time the crop's done. And the reason why that is because the plants just keep growing up and up, and we keep wrapping the stem of the plant around the string every week. And then as the plants get too high, we lower them down and move them sideways. And of course this is the cluster we'll be harvesting this week, and then this one next week, and the week after here, the week after, and the week after, and up there's flowers. And then down here would have been the cluster that we would have harvested last week, the week before, the week before, the week before. So it's a continual crop that we harvest every week, a couple of times a week, so that we have fresh produce for our customers all the time. This is our cucumber crop. Our cucumber crop is a little shorter than our tomato crop. Usually there's 2 to 3 crops a year. They just don't last as long as the tomatoes. But it's the same sort of thing as the tomatoes. They keep growing up, and you get your fruit, your blossoms at the top, and your fruit a little farther down here. But the one thing I wanted to talk about a little bit in this crop is our insect and disease control. So one of the major diseases we get in cucumbers is called powdery mildew, and it just makes a look of powder on the leaves. And because we're organic, we can't use all the traditional chemicals that other producers can use. So there's one product that we use that's actually works very well, and it is a pesticide. It's a regulated pesticide, but it's actually composed of lactic acid and citric acid, so milk and orange juice, for lack of a better term. Not quite that simple, but that's basically what it is. And then for insect control, we use what we call biocontrol. So this is a little package of a beneficial insect, a good bug, called Assemblyus cucumaris. So it hatches out of this little package over about a month and goes all over the plant. It's a little mite that's just barely big enough to see with the naked eye, but it goes all over the plant, and it eats a bad bug called thrips. Then if you let the thrips get out of control, they'll bite the ends of the flowers of the cucumbers and make the fruit distorted. So there's always a way to keep things in balance, and I guess in an organic greenhouse we use nature as much as we can to do that. So these are our vine ripe tomatoes, or tomatoes on vine. We just started doing them on our farm this year. So they're the tomatoes that you would find on the cluster like this, not single. And then you see these little plastic hooks here as well. What we use them for is as the cluster gets big and heavy, sometimes they'll break off, so we use those to help support the cluster as it gets big and heavy. And then of course in the greenhouse it takes a lot of heat to heat the greenhouse in the wintertime. You know, it can be minus 20 outside, and we want it to be maybe plus 20 in here, so it takes a lot of heat. So there's 3 different ways we heat. The primary method of heat is these pipes down here. So they're what we call our pipe rail heat, and they're called that because, well, they are hot water pipes that circulate water, but they're also railroad tracks, or carts run on these as their railroad. So that's our primary heat. You put the heat nice and down and low to radiate up through the plants. But another interesting the way that we heat is this white pipe here right in the lines. So what it does, it's able to get heat right into where the tomatoes are. So say for example during the day when the sun's on the heads of the plants will accumulate energy, accumulate photosynthates, and then in the evening as the sun goes down, the plant wants to put those photosynthetates someplace, that energy someplace. So the plant will put it in a place that's the warmest. So what we'll do in the evening is open the vents a little bit, cool the heads, at the same time have a little heat on here so that the fruit stays warm, and by that way you can make the plant want to put that energy right into the fruits. So we can try to change our fruit size a little bit by adjusting the temperatures on those pipes. So for pollinating the tomatoes, we need to use bees in the greenhouse, and we use bumblebees for a couple of reasons. The bumblebees are actually a much better pollinator than honeybees. They're much less social than honeybees, so they'll tend to stick around and do their work, whereas a honeybee will be more likely, if one goes out and finds a nice clover field, be more likely to come back and tell all his buddies, and then they're all off working someplace else. And the bumblebees will work in both lower and higher temperatures, and they're just generally will get, they're bigger and more awkward and will pollinate better than a honeybee. So you don't need near as many of them. So we'll bring a hive in, a couple of hives in every couple of weeks, and they last between 8 and 12 weeks. Of course they have to go to every grape tomato flower, every tomato flower, so they do have a lot of work to do. And then you can look down here, we'll look at the soil a little bit. So we do have an organic soil, and it's a mix of peat moss, compost, coconut fiber, and then all different soil amendments that we use for fertility. We use some chicken manure compost, our own compost, crab and lobster meal, and ash, and lots of different things. So we've got a good mix of soil there, nice live soil. We've got some worms roaming around in our soil to keep it mixed up. We've got a lot of these little soil bugs or kinch bugs around. They're not very helpful, but sometimes you have to take the good with the bad, I guess. So, then of course for watering, we just have these pipes right here. So that's basically a drip tape pipe. The computer that controls all the settings in the greenhouse knows how much light there is outside. So we're able to program it based on the moisture of the soil, and by the amount of light, how much water they need. So they get irrigations every maybe 6 times a day in the summertime, sort of thing. So modern greenhouses do use a lot of technology as well. So this is an example of one of the sensors that we use. So it knows what the temperature and relative humidity is in this area. It knows what the sunlight is in this area. It knows what the carbon dioxide levels are in this area. So we actually also supplement with carbon dioxide to help plants grow. So you and I breathe in oxygen and out carbon dioxide. Plants do the opposite. So for example, in this greenhouse, if it was a day in the winter where the roof was closed, they could suck all the carbon dioxide out of the air and then not be able to grow anymore. So we put extra carbon dioxide in here for that effect. This is connected to the computer along with the roof, the irrigation, the heating, and of course the boilers. We do run biomass boilers to heat this operation. So we burn wood chips. We're 100% renewable energy from that perspective. In the wintertime, we would burn 2 transfer truckloads of wood chips every week. This time of year, it's maybe 1 every 10 days or so. And yes, we do heat right through the summer. In the mornings, even on a day that's going to be 30 degrees, we heat in the morning just to take the humidity out of the air so that the plants don't get disease. So lots of technology, lots of sensors, lots of wires going everywhere just to make sure that everything's where it wants to be all the time. In order to put all our tomatoes in packages, we have a number of different technologies. This machine is fairly new to us, so it weighs and packages all the pints. So it's weighing each set of tomatoes there on 4 different electronic scales, and then dumping 255 grams of tomatoes into each pint, and then it goes through the belt here, and if everything's lined up correct, it'll then put a label on them as well. And then we also have this machine over here. It's not operating till this afternoon, but what it does, it takes the big beefsteak tomatoes and they'll go in the cups above, and then the machine takes both a weight and a color picture of each tomato so that each exits a different grade. So there's 17 possibilities on combination of size and color. And then this machine over here, this is how we put plastic on the cucumbers. So we lay our cucumbers in here, and then the plastic sheet goes above and below them, and then it goes through the oven to shrink wrap the plastic on the cucumbers. Some people say, why do you have plastic on your cucumbers? And it is just because the cucumbers have been bred to have a nice thin skin compared to a garden cucumber, so that it's flavorful and you can eat the skins, you don't have to peel them. But because of that, it loses water very quickly. So if you take the plastic off a cucumber and leave it on your kitchen counter for a day, then it's going to get soft, and a consumer's not going to want to buy that. So those are our packaging things. So then the end result is some of these products here. So we've got our vine-ripe tomatoes with our label on it in a bag. Sometimes they're not in a bag, but in some cases they are. We've got our English cucumbers. We've got some of these are some of the beefsteak tomatoes that we sell to our direct market customers. And then our grape tomatoes. We also have sweet colored peppers. We also have beefsteak tomatoes, and then we grow a variety of lettuces and herbs and lots of other things for our direct market customers. But these ones you see here, they're the ones that would go to the chain stores in the region that we sell to.